welcome to a new episode of Sugarfolk Homemade, my podcast where I talk about all of the things that I have been knitting and crocheting and sometimes, very rarely, sewing. If you are new here, my name is Michaela. I'm coming to you from a small town in North Carolina where I live with my husband and our 3 kids. If you are a returning viewer, thank you and welcome back. I made some pretty rash decisions since last time we spoke. Well, I don't know if rash is the right word. They were good, but they were very impulsive. So I'm here to talk about that today. So grab something to sip on. I have some tea back here. I actually burnt my mouth or my tongue on this a second ago, and it still feels like it's really hot. So I'll just wait. And I'll probably forget about it until it's freezing cold. But yeah, let's jump right in. Also, I think I'm gonna have to take my glasses off. Every time I record with my glasses on, the glare is so intense and it's distracting and it's annoying. So I'm sorry, I'll just do it without them. I can see fine. I sometimes get a headache without my glasses, but they're a very minimal prescription, so I'll be fine. Okay, so first things first, I do have one finished object. I talked about this 2 weeks ago when I filmed, and this has been a long time coming because I started this, I looked on my Ravelry. I think I started this almost a year ago, a long time ago, but it is finished, and it is my Jupiter Crop by Caitlin Hunter. If you remember 2 weeks ago when I showed you this, and I think I hadn't done the sleeves yet, and I was somewhere in here, and I held it up, and you could just tell by looking at it that it looked tiny, and I was so nervous that it wasn't going to fit, and I was shocked that I even had that concern because I went up a needle size, and I went up 2 sizes in the pattern from what I would typically wear, and it still looked so tiny. But I just kept on trucking right along and blocked it. And when I say block, I mean I stretched this thing to the ends of the earth as far as I could stretch it. And it fits perfect. It is wonderful. I adore this. If I could go back, I could go back, but I'm too lazy. I would do one more of these little repeats because in the pattern she does have it to where if you want it longer, you just repeat this certain section over and over again, so it would make this longer. And I did do mine once more than she did, and I thought that would be good enough, but I needed a little extra width whenever I blocked it, so it kind of shortened the length a little bit. So I may have, if I did it again, I would definitely add a couple more of that pattern repeat, just to make it a tad bit longer. It is a very cropped sweater. It's not something I would wear with even high-waisted pants because it's that short, but it goes perfect over dresses, and that's kind of what the whole idea was anyways. So yeah, I love it so much. I actually wore it to church this past Sunday, and yeah, I love it. And I'll show you guys the inside because that's my favorite part. I just think it's so fascinating to see the inside of colorwork. I'll show you the pretty side without all of the woven in ends. Isn't that so neat? Like, it's almost neater than the actual sweater. I don't know, I just think it's crazy because I'm a fairly new knitter, and before knitting my own color work, I would have never had any idea like how it worked and what it looked like on the inside. Like, I've seen the inside of sweaters that are like factory made or whatever that have different colors, but to me that was like a factory thing and not necessarily something that I could do. So the fact that I did it is just mind-blowing. But yeah, I'm very proud of this. It does have a little bit of a like a buckling in the top. I don't even know if you can tell, but my color work got a little bit tight when I switched from regular stockinette to color work, which is funny because on the top that happened, but then lower down there's a couple spots where it's just a single row of one color, and so that would just be like stockinette, and those rows were actually a little bit tighter than my color work rows. So I must have just started with a really loose gauge. I don't know. I don't really know what happened, but yeah, all in all, it turned out really good. The tension worked out pretty good, I think. It's all even. I love it. And I'm glad that it's off my needles because it was on there for way, way too long. Speaking of cropped sweaters, I will talk about what I'm wearing today. This is my Trescao Jumper. This is a free pattern on Ravelry, and this was the first sweater that I ever knit. And I made this last year. I finished it right before I started my first podcast. And the designer is Along Avec Anna. I think it means like Along Came Anna, maybe. That's what I'm assuming. She has beautiful patterns, beautiful cardigans, beautiful sweaters, just beautiful everything. And I found this pattern on Ravelry for free. And I didn't want to pay for a sweater pattern yet because I was very new to knitting and I wasn't sure if it was going to be my thing. It was very much my thing, and I'm very glad that it is my thing because I love it. Anyways, so yeah, let me show you what this looks like. This is just a raglan sweater. It was a top down, and it is cropped, but it's not as cropped as my Jupiter crop. It's, just cropped. So it did call for a garter stitch neckline, and it also called for garter stitch on the cuffs and on the hem. But after I did the neckline, I realized I wasn't really a fan of that in this design, like on the cuffs and stuff. I didn't like it. Looked too squishy, which is what's good about garter stitch. I love garter stitch and other things, but I just didn't like it on the outskirts of the sweater. So I did do the garter stitch here, and then on the cuffs, I just did a twisted rib, a 1x1 twisted rib, which was my first time doing a twisted rib, and I hated it. I've gotten better at it, but it was rough. So I used the recommended needles. I did not swatch, which was kind of a mistake because my intention for this sweater was for it to be kind of a baggier, throw over kind of sweater. That's not the case. It's very much a form-fitting sweater, which is fine. I love it. But I should have checked my gauge, and I also was using bamboo needles at the time. It was before I got my is it Chao-gu or Chai-gu? I don't know. Before I got my interchangeable set. And I just had the bamboos from Amazon, and I find that I knit really, really tight on those. I think it's just because they're not as slippery. So yeah, my gauge was a little tight, but it worked out. Oh, another modification I just remembered. I only did decreases down to the elbow, and then I just did straight down. Because I tried it on and I could tell that if I kept going, it was going to be like so tight when I got to my wrist. And I did crop the sleeves. I'm a fan of cropped sleeves just because then I don't have to worry about getting them out of my way. So they're already out of my way. And the yarn that I used for this was King Cole Luxury DK. It was a superwash merino wool. And I got it from some website that was overseas. I don't even remember where I got it. It was just the cheapest wool yarn that I could find in a color that I liked. And I bought it, and it was lovely. I still have one skein of it left, which is I think 50 grams. And it's been sitting up here in my cabinet for quite a while. I am considering trying to make my daughter Rosie a hat with it or something in the future. Maybe even a little pair of cozy slipper socks for her. We will see. I always have so many things on my needles and then so many things in my head that I want to put on my needles, and it's a lot. I wish that I was faster, but unfortunately I'm not. Okay, what do I want to show you next? I think I will show you my new cast on first. So after I finished my Jupiter crop, I had quite a bit of yarn left over, and for that I used Cascade 220 Sport yarn. I don't believe they were superwash. I know one color was, the pink was superwash, but the rest I think were not superwash. And so I had a good bit of this yarn left over in all the colors really. I have a whole skein of the blue color, which was, it doesn't actually say, so I don't know. And then I had a pretty good chunk of white, a pretty good chunk of the oatmeal color, and a little bit of the orange, and then I had a little bit of pink. So I was trying to figure out what I could make with this, and my sister-in-law Patience has recently gotten into knitting, and she had just made her husband a beanie, and then I thought, why don't I make my husband a beanie? And he told me that he would like a beanie, so I said, okay, let me find a pattern. I'm gonna go on Ravelry, and I discarded the pink because he doesn't want pink, but I took these 4 colors, figured out roughly how much yardage I had, and did all the filters on Ravelry to find a hat pattern, and I ended up settling on the Hat and Peak pattern by Maxim, CYR. I don't really know what that means. His name is Max. On Instagram, he's Max the Knitter. But anyways, it is this right here. Super cool color work. And so I got my kitchen scale out to see if I had enough yarn for each section. And one of the colors, I knew I had enough of the blue, gray, and the white for any section in the pattern, so I could put those colors wherever I wanted. But then one of the colors, I needed 55 yards. So I did the math and came up with, this is probably not absolute, but I should have exactly 55 yards of this burnt orange color. So we are going to play yarn chicken, and I have saved a couple of ends that I have cut off of this from my Jupiter crop. So if I need to, I might can do some surgery and tie some pieces together and maybe make it work. I don't know. We're going to try. And if worse comes to worse, I don't actually know what I'll do if I run out. I may just have to buy another ball, which is fine. But anyways, so I cast on, and right now, and I'm just keeping it in this wicker basket, and I'm still on the ribbing because it's 5 inches of ribbing. Not my favorite thing in the world, but I'm getting it done. And I'm trying to finish this by his birthday, which is the first week of November, so I gotta get moving. And I better be careful not to rip this off the needles. So it looks really small, but because it's ribbing, of course, it will stretch a ton. So I think I have about 3.5 inches of ribbing, and my goal is 5 before I start the color work chart. And yeah, I adore this yarn. It's a sport weight, but in this ribbing, it is so squishy. I could cuddle up with a blanket full of this ribbing. I would not knit a blanket of ribbing, but if someone did, I would use it in this yarn. Heard one of my children. They're napping, or supposedly napping. I don't know what they're doing, but they're in their rooms. I just have a little Christmas tree stock marker, Christmas tree stitch marker on here. My husband got me those for Christmas last year. So yeah, I am working on that. Not that often, honestly. I should be working on it more often because I need to get it done for him. But I think once I get through the ribbing, I don't think the color work is going to take me that long. Ribbing just takes me a while because, you have to move the yarn back and forth and yada, yada, yada. So that's my new cast on. Next I'm going to go, I'll go ahead and go to my next new cast on. And this one is very exciting, and I am keeping this one in my ragtag quilt art project bag, which I love. And so the last time I filmed, I believe it was it was a Friday. That day is when Stephen West's Shawlography Clue Number 1 came out. And for some reason, I hadn't absorbed the fact that this was going on. I had seen it, but it didn't set in until that Friday, and I had major FOMO. So on my way home from my mother-in-law's house, my husband and I, it was 9 o'clock at night, it was dark, and I was just on Ravelry, and I saw it, and I said, I gotta do this. I have to do this. Everybody's doing it. I gotta jump in on this. So I went ahead and bought the pattern, and then I got home, and I was assuming that I had yarn in my stash. I was wrong. All I could find was, because it calls for fingering weight yarn, all I had was a bunch of acrylic yarn. I don't know if you can, no, you can't really see. A bunch of acrylic yarn in just random colors from that big blanket I showed in my last episode with all the different colors. So I just had a bunch of that leftover yarn. So I thought, well, it's definitely a heavier weight than fingering. It was probably more of an Aran or even a bulky, I don't know. It was thick yarn. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just pick these colors. I picked out kind of a Christmassy theme, if you will. And I thought, okay, I'll just put it on my biggest needles, and I'll end up with somewhat of a blanket, like a wraparound blanket or something. So I started knitting it, and I got into a couple wedges into the pattern, and it was so hard to knit this yarn. It was just impossible. And I crochet with acrylic yarn all the time, no problem. But for some reason, maybe I just knit too tight for acrylic yarn, and it doesn't have any stretch to it almost because it's plastic. So yeah, it was not a fun process for me, and I didn't like how bulky it felt. It's already kind of a squishy pattern, and so with the acrylic yarn, it was just too much. So this was 3 days in to the mystery knit along beginning, and I said, okay, it was actually Sunday morning before church, and my husband was at church already, and I was texting him, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna order yarn to do this, and it's gonna be expensive. Don't kill me. And then I said, actually, you know what? This is gonna be my Christmas present from you to me. You're good. I got it. So I got on Etsy, and I found so many beautiful kits, Shawlography kits, and I was gonna order one, and then I realized it was gonna take 2, maybe 3 weeks for the yarn to get here. And so I said, okay, scratch that. Let's go to Amazon and see what I can find. And I found some Knit Picks yarn for about $17 a skein, and I needed 5. So picked out some colors, and in my head, I was trying to picture what they would look like. And I went ahead and looked at the end of the Clue 1 video to get a spoiler, to see what it was going to look like, to see what kind of colors I wanted to do. And I thought that I wanted to do something fall. And I don't really know what was going on in my mind. We have been watching Harry Potter lately, so maybe I've just been in a spooky color mood. I don't know. But all these yarns got here, and they weren't exactly what I was thinking they were, but I think it's going to be okay. So before I show you what I have knit, I will show you the yarn. And when these all got here, I don't have a Swift and a ball winder, so I had to wind all of these by hand, and it took me so long. It started out, it was taking me about 45 minutes per skein to wind up, and then I got better, and I got it down to about 30 minutes. People probably do it way faster than me, but it takes me a long time. But it was worth it. I have no regrets. I am going to ask for a Swift and a ball winder for Christmas if anyone asks. That will be my request. Okay, so the yarns that I picked out, first, they came in 2 separate packages. So 4 came in one, and the first 4 were, it's like juggling. These were the first 4 that came in. And right off the bat, I thought, okay, these will be all right. I like these. And then a few days later, of course, I had already wound up all of these and I was ready to knit. So I started with what I could, and then, oh no, it's rolling away. Okay, started with what I could, and then finally the last one came in. And I was expecting this last one to be a burnt, like a reddish wine burgundy color. Definitely more red, but it is straight up purple. Yep, straight purple. So I wasn't very thrilled, but it's all good. I will be fine. So I'll tell you what these colors are. First, the black is, actually, let me just show you what the shawl looks like first, and then I'll tell you what the colors are. So if you have not seen what Clue 1 looks like, look away. I will tell you when I'm done showing it. You probably already know because I am way behind. Clue 3 was actually just released today, and I'm not even done with Clue 1. I'm almost done, but anyways, this is Clue 1. So if you haven't seen it, shield your eyes. And here we have my Shawlography mystery cowl, Clue 1. So you can see I chose my speckled yarn for the main color in this section, and up here you've got different I-cord V's or slip stitch V's, and right now I'm working on these I-cord bumps. These things are taking me forever. Oh my gosh, they take me so long. But I'm almost halfway done with the I-cord bumps, and then I'll be done with Clue 1 and I can move on to Clue number 2. So the yarns are a black tonal. They're all tonals and then a speckled, which the pattern said that you could use speckled or variegated, but you didn't want them all to be that way. I don't know how he felt about tonals, but it's all Amazon could give me, so that's what we went with, and I'm not mad about it. Let's see here. Okay, this black one was Knit Picks Hawthorne Kettle Dye in the colorway Blackbird. So it's just a really pretty black. There's some gray in there because, like I said, it is a tonal. And then next we have the purple, which is just a Hawthorne. It's also Kettle Dye. Contessa is the colorway. And this really is a beautiful color. I should not have been so mad at it. I do like it. It's very pretty. It actually kind of matches that right there in that basket. Purple, some lighter purples, and some pinks in there. And then the brown is the same Hawthorne, Knit Picks Hawthorne Kettle Dye Fawn, Faun, just basic brown. I actually sometimes when I'm using these two together in certain lighting, I get them a little bit confused when I'm reaching for the other color. I don't know, it's kind of weird looking at it here. They look so different, but when we're like watching TV and it's kind of dark, I get them confused because they do look a little similar in the dark. In the dark, of course they look similar because it's dark. Anyways, the next one is a Knit Picks Stroll in the colorway Poppy Field. And I also was assuming when I saw the picture of this one on Amazon that this was more of a like a mustard yellow, and it's much more of a gold, like a poppy field, what you would think when you hear the word poppy field. I'm not good at picking yarn online. We'll just leave it at that. But yeah, it's a really pretty yellow. It does have like some mustard orange in there. That's what I thought the whole thing was. There's another good piece you can see. It is very beautiful though. And lastly, my white speckled is called Jupiter. It's also Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering weight Jupiter speckle. And I did not even know this. This turned out perfect. I just saw that this had some speckles in it, and I was okay with whatever color those speckles were. But it turns out that the speckles in this, there are brown speckles. You're not going to be able to see this, but brown speckles that match my brown, perfect. There is some winey purples that match my purple, perfect. And then there is orange, which kind of contrasts, or it plays nicely with the gold color. So this honestly ties the colors together really, really well. And oh, by the way, if you stopped watching, I'm not showing the shawl anymore, so you can unshield your eyes. Sorry, a little delayed there. But yeah, I really think all in all, they look really nice. When I was starting on the first wedge, I had this color. Gosh, my rings keep sliding around. I had this color, and then I had to use my black. And I was looking at the black with the purple and the orange, and I was like, ooh, I don't like this. This is going to be like strictly a Halloween themed shawl. Like, I'm only going to be able to wear this around Halloween. And I was kind of bummed about it. I even thought about, for a second, maybe I'll just send back the yarn. But then I was like, no, dummy, you can't do that because you already wound them up into balls. So you have the yarn, make the best of it. So I kept knitting, and I'm glad I did, because honestly I think it looks really stinking cool. And yeah, I think it looks really cool. It's a little out of my comfort zone, but I do love color. I mean, I'm a colorful person. I look at other people's like neutral palettes, even in their homes, in their clothing, their wardrobe, you know, everything. And I see neutral palettes, and I'm like, oh, that's so pretty, and it's so minimal, and I love it, and it's so nice. I wish that I could do that. But then if you've been to my house, or, I mean, I'm always wearing colors. I'm a colorful person, and for some reason I just can't seem to wrap my head around that fact. But I think that I'm learning to accept it, and I'm actually going to really like this shawl when it's all said and done. And I have absolutely peeked at the end of the videos to see what the next 2 clues are going to reveal, and I'm very excited. I'm not the kind of person that can just actually sit and wait and knit it and see what it looks like. If it's there, I'm going to look at it, you know? It's just the way I am. But yeah, it was a very, as I said in the beginning, a very impulsive decision to, first of all, even join this cowl, because I have a lot of other projects going on that I need to finish. But I started it. I bought the pattern on a whim, and I said, okay, let's go. And then it was another impulse decision to spend almost $100 on yarn, which is not me. I talk about it all the time. My yarn budget is like this big. But I did it, and I'm so glad I did. And that's all she wrote on Shawlography. I'm very excited about this shawl, and I'm not going to have it finished when everyone else does, because I got such a late start, and that's fine. You know, it'll be totally fine. It'll get finished one day. I am actually pretty proud of myself for making it as far as I have, because I've really only been working on it for about 5 days, and I finished clue 1. And for me, I feel like that's good, because it's been a lot of hours of knitting. But yeah, that was my impulse decision. of the year, really. So I'm really excited to see how it turns out. And I was watching someone else's podcast yesterday, Noble Character Crafts, and she's doing the shawl too. And her colors are almost identical to mine, with the exception that where I have my purple, she has a red, which is what I was going for. But she used the darkest color for the inside of the wedge, whereas I used the lighter. So I'm really curious to see how ours are going to be like opposites. Yeah, I don't know. And that also, seeing that she picked out similar colors than I did, gave me more assurance that I didn't just like pick random colors, that they actually do go well together, because everything she makes is beautiful and I trust her judgment. So when she showed that she had the same colors as me, I said, yes, okay, this is gonna look good. She thinks that those colors look good together too. So maybe I'm not crazy. This is gonna look good. So thank you, Amy, for picking the same colors that I did. Even though it was totally just coincidence, it reassured me that my purchase was okay. I feel like I'm talking like a million miles a minute today. Maybe I'm just excited. I'm always so excited when it's time to film. Okay, so I have one more project to show you. This is a work in progress. I showed it maybe 2 episodes ago. This is the sweater, not a sweater, oh my gosh, a blanket that I'm making for my son, Porter, and it is almost the point where I can put a border on and finish it up. I don't remember where I was the last time I showed you guys, but I'm pretty sure I've gotten further. So I will show you how far I have gotten. And I keep this massive thing in this big old basket. And it's almost too big for this basket, so may have to find somewhere else to stick it. Okay, so gotta unwind some yarn to give me some leeway. Okay, so this is where I'm on this row right here. It is just a striped blanket. This is crochet. I don't think I even got to the bottom of it yet. There we go. When I hold it up like that, it looks like it should be done. But when you see it in fullness, it's a little too short. It's almost like a square right now, and I want it to be more of a rectangle. So I think I'm gonna do, because right now I'm right here, so I think I'm gonna finish that section here and then do one more of the colored section, and that should put it about like here-ish, and I think that'll be good. This is, I think I just said this, crochet, just single crochets the whole way through. I did not follow a pattern. I just found some colors in my stash that went well together, and what I have done is this section right here is 5 rows to 5 to 5, and then this section is 12. Hang on. I've already forgotten. I think it is 12. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. Okay, so this section is 12 rows because ideally I wanted these sections to be the same size as this part of this section. And it's not quite, because this is a smaller weight, finer weight yarn than these. But it all works out. I really like it. I like how the colors play together. And I don't work on this very often. I try to do 2 rows in the morning, which takes me about 15 minutes or so. But sometimes I honestly just forget that I have this going, because it's that mindless that it requires no brain power at all. And also, the more I knit, the more I don't love to crochet. I started out as a big crocheter, but I don't know, knitting is just so much more fluid to me. Like, things just slip and slide easier. I don't know if that makes any sense, but with crochet, I don't know. Knitting is just more fluid. Like, it feels more right. That's the only way I know how to explain it. I will still crochet because for blankets and stuff, it's just so much quicker. I don't even want to think about knitting a blanket because sweaters take me, in the case of my Jupiter crop, a year. So, yeah, I don't think I would knit a blanket anytime soon, unless it was like, jumbo needles in a big chunky blanket. But I will keep crocheting for blankets and things of that nature. But my heart has been stolen by knitting, and I feel like I eat, sleep, and breathe knitting at this point. I mentioned last episode that my knitting mojo is like insane right now. Like, how many times can I say like? But if I'm sitting, if I'm watching TV, if I'm doing anything that my hands are free, I want to knit. And a lot of times I will procrastinate other things that require my hands so that I can knit. And then they pile up like they did today. And I had to fold 3 loads of laundry before I could knit because, it waits for no one. So, yeah, that's all I have to show today. I don't usually come on this recent or frequent, but I was just so excited about the mystery cow and felt like I had a lot to share. So decided to hop on, and maybe, just maybe, I can make an every 2-week episode be the norm. I would love that. Also, let me know what setup you like the best. For a long time, I was just sitting in my living room. Also, I'm so sorry that I look back and forth between like the actual lens and myself. I'm so sorry. It's a habit that I'm trying to break. But I usually sit in my living room in my rocking chair. And then last time I sat over that way. But I think I'm liking this. The lighting seems good right here. Uh-oh, somebody's crying. The lighting is good here, and I'm in front of my yarn. It just feels right. But let me know what you guys like to see best, if you have a preference. And yeah, that's all I have. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go get the baby because he's crying. So I hope you enjoyed this video of me rambling about everything. It was so nice to chat with you all again. And if you enjoyed this and you have not subscribed yet, please, please do. And leave me a comment below. Tell me what you're working on. If you're doing the mystery cow, I would love to see your progress. Send it to me on Instagram or just tag me in a post where you've talked about it, because I want to see it. I'm so interested in everyone's different colors and the way that they are playing together. It's so cool to see. So if you were in that knit along, let me know. And oh, I was going to tell you guys, I mentioned that my sister-in-law has started knitting, and she's made a couple things so far. And I thought about, in a few weeks or so, asking her to join me on the podcast. Patience, if you're watching this, you can't back down. So if you guys would like to see that, let me know, and I will try and coerce her into joining me. And yeah, that's all I've got. Gotta go get the crying baby. I hope you all have a fabulous next few weeks, or however long it will be until I see you again. And yeah, happy crafting. Bye.